Well, so in all this noise, Toyota has launched the Yaris or showcased the Yaris at the Auto Expo, and this will essentially be their rival for the Honda City. Now, dimensionally, it's a little smaller than the Honda City, but it'll be a power punch unit when it is officially launched. This car will come with a 1.6 litre petrol engine, which will also come with a hybrid option, and you can of course expect best-in-class fuel efficiency figures from this car. There isn't any word on a diesel engine just as yet, but Toyota could also bring that in sometime soon. In terms of features, it will be completely loaded, and in terms of pricing, expect prices to start from around 8 lakh rupees. This car will go on sale towards the second half or the last half of 2018, and if you are in the market for an entry-level sedan or a mid-size sedan, then this is definitely one of the better options out there. You should definitely wait for it. Let's have a look at the cabin and figure out if it's as good as the exterior styling. Well, so here I'm inside the cabin of the new Yaris, and if you've tried and gone away from Toyota entry-level sedans because of the Etios and thought that the Etios' cabin was very mediocre in terms of the design as well as styling, this one is definitely going to banish away all those Etios nightmares if you've ever had those, because the quality, the perceived quality levels are pretty good and at par with segment leaders at the moment. The top of the dashboard, the top of the door pads over here are made from decent materials, and even this center console here is pretty sturdily built up. So in terms of overall, the material usage is pretty good. In terms of the equipment levels, we expect even the base version to start with a couple of airbags and ABS as standard. So safety kit will be taken care of even in the base versions. In terms of utility places, you get a couple of beverage holders over here, a big place to keep your coins and other knickknacks here, and the door bins are large enough for those big 1 litre bottles. The best part is that even the glove box is a cool unit, which means that on those long highway trips, it should be a nice place to be and you won't have to stop for those beverages. And also, the unique feature is the fact that it has a soft opening, which means that you will feel luxurious and upmarket inside the cabin of the Yaris. In terms of seat comfort, these seats are pretty good. The underside support is good. Support for the lower back is also excellent. So no complaints in that department. And the steering wheel also is nice to hold. In terms of design language, it's a simple design. It's nothing which will excite you, but it's also something which will not offend you, unlike the Etios, which had some unique design elements which offended some people and wasn't to everyone's liking. So this one is a car which is really going to appeal to the masses and definitely is a legible rival and a threat maybe to the Honda City as well as the Maruti Suzuki Ciaz and Hyundai Verna in that segment. Well, so the new Yaris is dimensionally smaller to both the City and the Ciaz, which means that legroom at the back isn't as generous as the City and the Ciaz. So if you are in the market for a chauffeur-driven car, you'll probably still prefer both those cars. But in isolation, knee room is pretty decent. Headroom also is decent for someone who is my height, which for reference is 5'10", and as always the front seats have been adjusted for my height and my driving position. There is a little bit of place below the front seats where I can stretch my feet, and as I said, in isolation it is quite okay and within acceptable limits. But when you compare it with the City as well as the Ciaz, yes, legroom isn't as generous, and the cabin also doesn't feel as opulent as the one inside the Hyundai Verna. It's a more simplistic design and doesn't have that same wow factor like the Verna's cabin. So yes, overall this car still has some rough edges, but maybe Toyota will fix them before they launch it. In terms of seat comfort, it is a very comfortable car because you get excellent support for your under thighs. The support for your back is very good, and the knee and hip angle also is pretty okay, so there aren't any issues in terms of the seat comfort. The only issue is that you can only have 2 passengers. The central part of the seat is raised slightly, and also this little armrest from the front is protruding out, so in case you decide to jump around a bit, you might actually accidentally hurt your knee over here, and it also feels a little flimsy to build. The build quality isn't the best, so maybe that's something that Toyota should work on before they launch this car. But in isolation, a decent place to be in when compared to rivals slightly behind in the backseat department. Well, in terms of the boot department, the Yaris does not disappoint. As you can see, it's a nice and deep boot. It's also a very wide boot, and the aperture also is pretty generous, which means that those big and heavy boxes shouldn't be an issue when you load them up. There is a bit of a sill, but it's not too much, it's not too intrusive, so it isn't a big issue at all. And this car can definitely rival the Honda City and the Ciaz for sheer boot space. It is genuinely a good car for those long distance trips.